Right. Let's see if the streaming is working here. I do think we are live. Okay, we're definitely live on Facebook. Wonderful. Hopefully we will be live on YouTube as well. All right. It seems like there's some, if you guys could in the chat, it seems like there's people on YouTube. Could you let me know if you're actually seeing this on YouTube or if you're seeing this on Facebook right now? I am trying out a new, you're not hearing anything. Wonderful. Let's see, Susan. Okay, you're live. Thanks, Marie. I appreciate it. All right, thanks for tuning out, everybody. If you're on Facebook, if you could pop in the chat and let me know, that would be amazing. And YouTube, I think, is working. You're good, not. I don't know what that means. Okay, well, I think we're good on YouTube. As long as we're good on YouTube, then we'll just roll with it and we'll figure out the other softwares later because software is so fun. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me today. I got a small presentation here that I'm going to run through, and then I'm going to take a bunch of Q&A. And really, this is kind of designed to be a hang. Just ask me questions. I think, as far as I know, there's going to be practitioners here. There could be people just popping through the internet that find us. Who knows? So I would like to welcome all those. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the two screens I have here. And so I will hopefully try to catch up on the chat when I can. So if you don't know me, I'm Stephen Wright. I call myself a health engineer. Background is schooling in electrical engineering, and then the last 16 years in the functional medicine, integrative medicine world. Studied with Dr. Dan, had a telehealth sort of consulting practice for a little while. And then since 2009, I've been writing and researching about the gut-brain immune connection for myself, for my family, and for everybody else. It's just kind of like what has been chosen for me in my life, and I'm embracing that. And now I really enjoy creating products that have never been done before and trying to push the field forward. So let's talk about the biggest problem that I see right now. As far as we're talking about our immune system, we're talking about our immune IQ, how do we create a smarter immune system? The biggest issue that I'm seeing in the immune world these days is aggressive immune systems. Many of us are in constant conflict. Our environment includes pollen, it includes mold, it includes the entire environment, microbes, and even our own tissues. In medicine, or at least in research, but sometimes in medicine, this is called tolerance. It's a loss of tolerance to the outside world, sometimes to our own and sometimes to our own tissues and cells. And it's a hallmark of disordered inflammatory patterns in aging. The worst version of this is what we saw with the cytokine storms during the pandemic. Most people are never going to have to deal with that worst case scenario, but the one thing that does get worse for us in this sort of functional medicine, natural health world is that the gut immune system actually has quote unquote properties of aging, or sorry, properties of memory. I'm doing it in air quotes because it's not like true memory, and I don't think it's totally all figured out yet, but in general, the science does suggest that there's a persistent after effects, if you will. There is a type of memory after infections are treated and removed, after mold is treated and removed, after, for instance, foods are removed. And what this is saying, and I think what clinical presentation for a lot of clinicians would say, is that removal of the trigger of the root cause does not guarantee a return of tolerance. And this is why so many clinical plans can backfire when you try to reintegrate into the world, reintegrate into foods, whether it's like, simple stuff like broccoli or more complex like corn. And so the biggest question that I've been asking myself, and that I want to ask you, is how do we restore the balance and the tolerance? Because the world is not, it's not going to get better. Hopefully it's going to get better, but we're not going to get the chemicals out of the environment. Never going to go away. The EMFs are never going to go away. The mold is here to stay. And so as much as we'd all love for that to be gone and there'd be like this utopia in our environment and our food system and all these different things, like it's just not going to change. And I think it's better to accept that. How do we build these bodies so that we can tolerate this new mismatch between our environment and ourselves? Okay, so let's start with the stronger is better myth. For years, the conversation around immunity has been about boosting, strengthening, and this strong immune system. But this strong alarm, if you have a strong alarm that would go off time like a leaf blows by, a dog barks in the neighborhood, it ends up being loud, disruptive, and you'll never really know what's a real alarm, what's a false alarm. An overactive or strong immune response can lead to chronic allergies, autoimmune conditions. It's the biological equivalent of that overly alarm. The smarter is better reality. So a smart immunity or smarter immunity is about balance and appropriate responses. Your immune system doesn't usually need more power. It actually needs better decision making. A smarter immune system knows when to attack a real threat like a bacteria or some other foreign, and when to stand down when faced with like a harmless trigger such as pollen or a specific food like broccoli or corn. This is where HoloImmune technology shines. It's designed to train your immune system to make decisions. So I wanted to highlight a few things because sometimes people don't wonder, like, is this true or not? So here's a few of our buyers. I get sick often, but since I've been taking HoloImmune, I have not gotten sick, even though there have been around multiple people who have miscellaneous upper respiratory sickness. Hip, hip, hooray. It's the best immune defense product I've ever taken. I started taking HoloImmune per my practitioner's request. I've been around my sick grandchildren and other sick people. I've never gotten sick, but my husband sure did. He is on it now too. It's such a great product. So you can read those other two. I wanted to grab a few others. HoloImmune helps with my seasonal allergies, getting them under control. I have much less symptoms when I take it. I'm happy with this product. Amazing product. I truly believe that this has increased my immunity, and I haven't been sick for over a year since taking this. And then this is a wonderful product, helps with my digestion. So it does, the gut immune system is highly intertwined. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Let me go check on our chat real quick here. Okay. So we're good on YouTube. I don't know that we ever made it to Facebook, so that's fine. Okay, so let's talk about HoloImmune's paraprobiotic technology. So many people have not heard about paraprobiotics yet. They are not live, and they are heat treated on purpose to kill them. And the reason why we'll talk about during this conversation, but when you have a inactivated or a heat killed probiotic, their cellular structures, they basically are allowed into the body in a different way than the live versions. And this gives the immune system a lot more to train with. Think of it like a training simulation for your immune system. Rather than being alive, like the body doesn't want to bring live bugs into it. That would be scary. It could colonize, it could cause some sort of bad thing. The body doesn't always know between a good microbe and a bad microbe immediately. So a dead one is sort of like a hologram. It's a beneficial bacterium to your immune cells in the gut where it can sort of be in a training environment where it can try to better understand friend and foe. What this allows and what happens is that the receptors on the dead probiotic cells, they have like little receptors and things. They also have a cell wall, and then they have DNA inside that. All that stuff ends up being essentially information, like literally like a technology download to the gut immune system. And since it's not alive, the body lets it in, and the immune system's way more apt to interact with it. So this is how your immune system begins to learn. See, your immune system is a powerful pattern recognizing machine. It's constantly sampling your environment, especially your gut. So remember, our gut is almost like a tube going through us where it's inside of our body cavity, but the stuff inside of our intestines is still technically outside of the body. And so while it's inside our body cavity, it's not necessarily inside of our actual body. It's not in the tissues, it's not in the blood, it's not in there. And so the immune system is constantly reaching into the gut and sampling that environment, trying to understand what's happening. And it's trying to learn what is going on. Are we getting nutrients? Is it safe out there? Are our friends, like our microbes, are they growing well? Or is there a threat? Are there toxins? Are there lipopolysaccharides, LPS? What's happening out there? So there's these specialized cells. Some of them are dendritic cells. Some of them are M cells, and they're like security guards. They're sort of like checking IDs. They're allowing and making sure that only certain things pass through, and they're looking for specific molecular patterns. Again, they're trying to create a healthy environment inside your intestines and keep the bad guys out. When they recognize a pathogen, they will sound an alarm. They have this whole process. It's very complicated, but it's very cool. When they recognize a pattern that is associated with beneficial bacteria or food, however, they're supposed to learn to tolerate it. This is what's called oral tolerance. So after this talk, if you want, go ask your favorite AI software about oral tolerance to summarize the research in oral tolerance. It's very interesting and very cool. So the role of the gut in this is that the gut is the primary training ground for the immune system. Most people, you may have heard that 80% of your immune system or 80% of the cells of your immune system are located in the gut. This is where the action is. It's the primary training ground for the immune system, and it's where your body has the most exposure to the outside world. Now you might think, well, I have all this skin, I have my nose, I have my eyes, like I have all these, this is the outside world. That is also true. And there's also signals and stuff coming in through our skin, through our nose, through our eyes. But the majority of the interplay that's happening for oral tolerance is happening in the gut. Now, I do want to, we can talk about this later if people have questions, but I do want to throw in there that a healthy gut microbiome also provides this constant positive training signal to the immune system, teaching it tolerance and balance. Part of oral tolerance is a unhealthy microbiome, as well as unhealthy immune cells and immune IQ. As I mentioned earlier, modern lifestyles, diet, stress, they disrupt the training and they lead to confusing signals and overreactive immune systems. So how does HoloImmune enhance pattern recognition? HoloImmune provides a constant, high-quality training signal. The paraprobiotics in HoloImmune have unique patterns that are then recognized by your immune cells. These companies have done millions, I doubt a billion, but probably hundreds of millions of dollars of research on these different dead bugs and how they work. What they found out is that the interaction helps educate the immune cells, promoting a balanced response. And I have a nerdy section a little bit later, so we can go into that. It reinforces the patterns of safe and beneficial and helps calm an overactive system. It's like giving your immune system's security guards a clear and updated field manual so they can do their job more effectively. I've also sometimes said it on other talks. It's almost like downloading a new software update. Like if it's time to update your phone for better security, for better understanding in the world. Oops, wrong direction. All right, so I think a lot of people are wondering, what about allergies? So allergies are a perfect example of a strong but not smart immune response. Your body is identifying a harmless substance such as pollen, pet dander, a peanut as a major threat and launching a full-scale attack. This is your immune system's pattern recognition system making a mistake. It's misidentifying harmless patterns as dangerous ones. This is loss of tolerance. So how could you build allergy intelligence? There's things out there, like there's different shots, there's different programs that you can do where you expose yourself to very specific pollens, very specific triggers that you have. I've done those in the past, but in general, I find them to be very long. Like they take years, at least the ones that I've tried. There might be new technology out there, but they don't really provide like a total system update. And that's what HoloImmune is helping to do. It's called, or what I call allergy intelligence, by providing the immune system with consistent calming signals from the paraprobiotics, it helps retrain this faulty pattern recognition. The immune system learns to be less reactive to these harmless triggers. It's not about suppressing the immune system, but it's about making it more discerning. This can lead to a reduction in the severity and frequency of allergic type responses, whether they're seasonal, environmental, or food related. So the whole immune difference is that many allergy solutions simply block the symptoms, like antihistamines. Antihistamines are blocking the cellular entry of histamine. Whole immune is going to work upstream from that at the source of the problem by educating the immune self and the immune system itself to produce, for instance, less histamine or other less signaling molecules that could overactivate something else. It's a proactive rather than reactive approach to managing how your body interacts with the world around it. And yes, they work together. So this is not whole immune's not a drug. It doesn't fix like allergies per se, like all of your allergy. It doesn't treat any drug like things. It does work along with them. All right, so summing it up, the goal is a stronger immune system, the goal is not a stronger immune system, but a smarter one. Holoimmune's paraprobiotic technology acts as a training tool for your immune cells, improving their decision-making. By enhancing your immune system's natural pattern recognition abilities, Holoimmune helps create a more balanced and intelligent response, especially when it comes to harmless triggers like natural foods. Again, corn, broccoli, things like this, or like pollen, like ragweed, like other pollen out there. So I'm going to go over to the chat here. I did throw this in Holoimmune for Nerds so that we can get all nerdy. But I want to go ahead and grab some. I hope you'll start throwing some questions in here. Looks like Susan did. Thank you, Susan. But I do want to, get nerdy if people want to get nerdy. Thanks, Susan. I have a client whose home is mold infested. She and her children are constantly sick. They are working on getting it remediated. Would Holoimmune help now? Lifestyle dialed in. Yes. So again, part of what Holoimmune is doing is it's giving your entire gut immune system a different way of operating. So you can see here, one of the things that is really impressive about the strains in Holoimmune is the L92 there. The way in which it's creating more T regulatory cells is by blocking excessive IgE production. So if your client is making excessive IgE, if they're not making enough Treg, if they're, let's say their innate immune system is underactive because it's been under so much stress from the mold, the different cell or the different the different paraprobiotic cells are going to work in different ways to increase their capacity to be more normal in the face of the challenge of mold. And I think that's where people are maybe not totally understanding how the Holoimmune sort of trains the education or the decision-making in the body. Sometimes you don't need this per se, but what we've seen is that you almost want to be on the Holoimmune and then introduce yourself to the offending food, to the offending pollen. And it's the longer that you're on it, the body's getting more and more efficient at dealing with that potential trigger. And when you have the Holoimmune in there, it can actually help to suppress or block the bad signals, if you will, or the over-aggressive signals. Hopefully that's helpful. Kathleen says, I had a GI map test done. It showed H. pylori and leaky gut. Can I add this to the protocol or should I wait until my H. pylori is cleared? Yeah, again, Kathleen, you could take this at any time. Holoimmune can be taken at any time. It would help, hopefully, with whatever killing protocol you're about to do for H. pylori. It'll help with SIBO protocols. It'll help with whatever protocol you're doing. Again, one of the issues we have with these protocols is we do the protocol for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Maybe it's a pharma protocol. It's only 12 days or something like that. But I don't know if you guys remember what happened when the United States pulled out of Iraq or Afghanistan. Both of those situations were extraordinarily messy. There was a power vacuum. And when the dominant player, in this case, H. pylori or SIBO, when the dominant player, the power player in the gut is eradicated using a natural method or a pharma method, it doesn't really matter. What is left is a bit of chaos. There's a power vacuum. And you're hoping that the immune system steps up to the plate and fills that role to kill off any sort of bad guys who are still left around, kill off any sort of potential new threats that could arise from the chaos. But that's often not the case if we've had gut immune dysfunction for a really long time. So adding holoimmune in, especially near the end of a killing protocol, and then for the next like 8 to 12 weeks, is a really good way to help try to prevent a reinfection and make sure that the immune system actually steps up and fills that power vacuum to help, basically keep the gut infection free for the future is how I'd put it. Thoughts on a child? She's 10 with could she take it? So I have to say that the strains, 3 of the strains, well, one's beta glucans, that's been studied in children 2 and up. And then 2 of the other strains have been studied in children, L92 and I believe the Immune strain have all been studied, again, 2 and up, and have had no side effects. The combo of holoimmune has never been quote unquote studied in children. So I can't say 100% that it's safe, but above 2 and up, the safety data suggests that this is even safer than a live probiotic. Live probiotics can actually harm immune systems that are weak. Like say, for instance, you're on chemotherapy or you're an elderly person, let's say you're on a biologic drug, there has been case reports of live bugs actually crossing over the GI tract and causing major infections. And so dead bugs, including what's in holoimmune, have been considered a safer alternative. And so as long as she starts with a sprinkle and as long as you're working with a practitioner, it's usually never an issue. If you guys have other questions, please throw them in the chat. Yeah, it looks like we never made it on Facebook. Bummer. Anyways, going back to YouTube, can I take Holozyme together with holoimmune? Yes, 100%, Arnold. They work together. They work on different pathways, and I take both every day. Many of our customers do. Okay, great questions. If you guys have other questions, please throw them in the chat. I'm going to get back to our nerd talk here. Let me switch back over. Okay, so holoimmune is a combination of 4 ingredients. It's still the only product in the world that has multiple strains of paraprobiotics. Now, you can find some of these strains in other products. I think we might be the only product in the world with L92, but you can find Amuse, you can find HK137 in other products, but never completely together. And the reason why I wanted all these different strains together along with beta glucans is there's a possibility that if your immune system already has a memory or has a trigger from mold, from an infection, from something else, towards too much TH1 or towards too much TH2, and you give a stimulus like a paraprobiotic, you might exacerbate the issues. Like you might drive more inflammation, you might drive more immune system out of balance. And the goal of holoimmune is to get into balance. And so they all kind of work together. LC plasma, the Amuse strain, think of that as working on the entire system. The main mechanism is through activating plasmacytoid dendritic cells. These are somewhere between 0.02 and 0.08 of your immune cells. They're extraordinarily rare, and they're only found in the gut, in your gut. And they have a lot of power. They're very good at coordinating the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And then the HK137 strain is very good at supporting the TH1 responses, and the L92 strain is very good at supporting the TH2 responses. So in case you've already ended up in a place, maybe through whatever, through the environment, through life, you're already too much TH1 or too much TH2, or let's say you're overactive in your adaptive immunity, which is more like autoimmune conditions, or you're overactive in your innate, which is sometimes more like a histamine related thing. This together, along with beta glucans, at least the beta glucans we use, which are 1316 from yeast, together we're trying to get a 360 picture here so that you're ready for whatever comes. It could be antiviral, it could be antibacterial. You're going to have cellular immunity, you're going to have full body immunity, and we're not overreacting. We're having like kind of an anti-allergy regulation. This is why the majority of users end up reporting things like less sick days, less allergies, more tolerance, and a better gut, is because we're hitting as many pathways as we can in sort of a 360 view, rather than just assuming, like, I don't know anything about your labs. I have not seen your labs. I have not, I haven't done an intake on you. I don't know your history, your family history, where you live. And so if I'm going to formulate a product, I got to be very careful and cognizant that I don't make a product that accidentally pushes you too far into TH1 or pushes you too far to TH2 if you're already leaning that way, because that's what happens when we're already too strong or too aggressive, is that we are like, there's a default mode that the immune system wants to go, and whole immune's coming in and saying, stop that. Like, let's only use that when it's time to do that. Let's go this direction. And so that's one of the reasons why the formula includes the various strains that it does. And I think that's one of the reasons why it works differently than any other product that's out there. So before I look at the questions a little bit more, I want to talk about dosing. So if you want to feel the balance with Whole Immune today, we do have an awesome offer. We have up to 40% off with our Smarter Immune sale. So you can go to healthygut.com/smarter-immune-sale. And then we can get up to 40% off however you like to. If you want to get on subscription, we think that's the best way so you don't ever run out. We give our subscribers a ton of benefits, including outage protection. So whenever we run low on stock, which we do from time to time because we're a growing brand, we will go out of stock on our website early, like a couple weeks early. We will let subscribers still get their products. So we always protect our subscribers. We always protect our healthcare practitioners by going out of stock early. And then we also do awesome stuff like giveaways and things like that for being a subscriber. So hopefully you'll check that out. There's a sort of a constant push and pull with Whole Immune around dosing. And so what I want to say right away, is that if you're someone who considers themselves to be sensitive, you consider yourself to be histamine intolerant, or you have mast cell activation syndrome, you need to start with sprinkles, because your immune system is already overly aggressive. It is hyper vigilant. It is ready to react to anything at any time. And Whole Immune is going to impact that. It is going to try to change that. And it's not necessarily like you immediately take it and it's sort of, the body allows that change. Sometimes the body fights back. And so you need to start with sprinkles. That could be sprinkles for a week. It could be sprinkles for 3 days, but at least do 3 days of just little sprinkles. Like, we're talking like 1/8 of a capsule. Just let your immune system take in this new information, because that's literally what it is. It's like new download, a new user manual, and allow it to start building up tolerance to these new pieces of information that it has not been getting. And then you can start increasing, from 1/8 of a capsule to a quarter to a half, things like that. Some people, the very, very sensitive folks, it might take them a whole month to get up to 1 capsule a day, sometimes longer. The rest of us, if you're a little more tolerant, 1 a day is the studied dosage. So the dosage in Whole Immune, every single ingredient there, I put the efficacious dosages from the scientific literature. So if the literature says, hey, 50 billion organisms is what was needed in this study, that's what's in every single capsule. And then if you're looking for an extra boost, so let's say you're noticing that allergy season's coming up. Let's say your back to school season's happening right now and you don't want to get sick. Or let's say you're having some inflammation related issues. You're going through perimenopause or something like that. Many people, not everybody, but maybe like 30% of users use around 2 a day, and they see even increased benefit. Okay, so let me run back to YouTube here. Oh, thank you. Thank you for putting in your questions. I don't like doing presentations without people, for the record. I'd much rather have an interaction. Hopefully I'll figure out the tech where we could actually bring you guys on live if you wanted to hop on, but we'll get to that in the future. All right, so Anne, I answered Arnold. Anne, why would a higher dose of Whole Immune trigger an eczema flare? So it's a great question, Anne. So one of the reasons why a higher dose of holoimmune could trigger a flare, whether it's histamine or eczema or whatever, is again, your body is, I like to think of your body like the immune system to the skin as a communication network, almost like a social network. And it has a preferred mode of communicating. Holoimmune is going to come in and it's going to scramble that all up. It's going to say, hey, stop, transmitting messages this one pathway or to this one person. In fact, talk to these other people. And when that happens, the body doesn't always accept change naturally. Like, I don't know if you've ever lifted weights, but even when you lift weights, like you get sore, there's an adaptation process that comes from that. There's also an adaptation process that comes from taking holoimmune. That's how it's sort of updating the user manual. And so if you increase the dosage, whether you're going from like sprinkles to one capsule and you get an unwanted symptom, the best thing to do is just go back down to the prior dose for a week or so, and then try to increase again after that. Great question. Will holoimmune cause constipation? No, typically holoimmune helps with constipation. The beta glucans in holoimmune end up being a very, very weak but helpful prebiotic. And so you can search our website and you will find that there are people who get better bowel movements by using holoimmune. And one of the probably the most profound way is through the prebiotic effect of beta glucans. The other way that it could be helping is it could be helping the nerve signaling and allowing the motility to happen a little more naturally. Debbie, should those with autoimmunity be wary of holoimmune? I was wondering about that, Debbie. When I first came out with the product, I was nervous. This had never been done before. Again, we're still the only company in the world that has this product, and I was wondering, like, could this potentially exacerbate someone's issues? And that's why I worked so hard to try to find 3 different bugs that work on 3 different pathways, hopefully with the hope that this wouldn't happen. And that's pretty much what we've seen, is that it is not harmed autoimmune markers that we've seen. In fact, usually over 8 to 12 weeks, it starts to help them and starts to help the symptoms. The only way it typically harms is, like we've said a number of times so far, is if you go too fast with your dosing. Ashley asks, does holoimmune have an enteric coating? It does not, Ashley. Enteric coatings are super important for lots of things. If you don't know what an enteric coating is, enteric coating means like stomach safe. There's regular capsules and regular products out there, like vegetarian capsules, gelatin capsules. We use those at Healthy Gut. Those break down in like 5 to 8 minutes inside the stomach acid. And then you have acid resistant capsules. These are like DR caps. You'll often see that trademark on the back of someone's bottle. Different supplement companies, we don't use DR caps at Healthy Gut at the moment. They basically resist acid for somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes. The normal amount of time that your food is in your stomach is somewhere between usually 2 to 4 hours. It totally depends on your nervous system. It depends on the size of the meal. It depends on the strength of the acid. It's like there's a ton of variables on how long your food sits inside your stomach. But in general, the accepted number is somewhere between 2 to 4 hours. So the DR caps are kind of protective, but they also aren't fully protective. Enteric coatings are essentially pH-driven coatings that are totally protective of the stomach. And so why does this matter? It matters if you have live bugs. So like this is not a live probiotic, so we don't need to protect those live bugs. They're already dead, so the stomach acid can't harm them. It matters if you have substances that get broken down by pepsin, or there's even a little bit of lipase in your stomach. So enzymes and acid can break down things like tributyrin. That's why our tributyrin X is enterically coated. They can also break down any number of different compounds. And then the other thing is botanicals. Botanicals have active ingredients, and the acid can begin to break those down. So there's nothing in like everything inside of holoimmune is already dead. It's already broken down to its form. And so there's no reason to protect it any further. By what mechanism does it increase energy in the body? From Mary. Mary, I would say that it's not the mechanism by which it would increase your energy if you're taking it, and you can read through the reviews, there are a number of people who report this, is because you're removing the sort of gas break sort of dysregulated immune system. If you're spending too much of your body's nutrients and energy trying to regulate to your environment, you're just going to be burning off energy rather than having, say, better cognition, better strength, better stamina. And so what holoimmune is doing is making your entire immune system more efficient and more tolerable and more balanced. That would lead to less lost energy, and that extra energy then hopefully would, go up to your your brain, to your muscles, something like that. But it's not going to increase energy per se, like in the mitochondria. It's going to stop wasted energy. Susan, found out the hard way last night taking for the first time. Oh, sorry about that, Susan. Yep. Especially if you're sensitive, it's that can be an issue. Laura asks, I have 2 atypical lesions. Will this help? At what dosage should I work up to? Currently, I'm taking 2 per day. Also, as the immune system becomes smarter, could there be die-off symptoms? I don't know if 2 atypical lesions means like lesions in the brain. What that means, Laura, holoimmune obviously does not treat, those types of things. The maximum dosage that we've used in the company, and I know I've taken 10 caps a day for like 30 days just to see if I grew a third eye, or like maybe I grew wings, or like maybe I could suddenly like dunk a basketball. None of that stuff came true. I had no ill effects. The strains are studied. One of the strains, LP20, was studied for a year-long study, and they also studied at 4x the dosage to look for abnormal markers. They did not find any abnormal markers. So in general, I think holoimmune is very safe. But I do think that the effects work on a dose response, and that dose response kind of peaks out around 4 capsules a day. So we've had people who have had traumatic brain injuries, concussions. They are doing all the things. Holoimmune does not treat TBI, but they were already doing like a keto diet. They were already doing hyperbaric oxygen. They were already doing a bunch of other supplements, but they were still having like nausea, dizziness, things like that. And they increased to 4 caps per day for 8 weeks. And they saw a very quick resolution of their remaining symptoms. And so holoimmune, as part of a protocol for intense immune system dysregulation, whether it's neuro or some other way, I think 4 is kind of the max. I don't think after 4, you're really going to get a lot of benefit. And then could you have die-off symptoms? Again, everybody's different. And so you want to work up slowly and just test things. You never know. Mary asks, why do holoimmune and histoharmony help with histamine? They work on different pathways. So holoimmune helps with histamine by helping to calm down mast cell activation. So mast cell activation, well, I shouldn't say it like that. Holoimmune helps predominantly, I would say, with helping to calm mast cells over aggressiveness. Mast cells make a lot of things, histamine just being one portion of it. The IgE blocking part of the L92, if I go back to our slides here, let me get back over there. So this L92 right here, the mechanism of action is blocking IgE, excessive IgE formation, and boosting T regulatory. And so more T reg and blocking IgE is going to equal less histamine making potential, is how I would say it. And then histoharmony is actually like the little Pac-Man. It's DAO, diamine oxidase. Histoharmony actually is like a Pac-Man for histamine, especially in the gut or outside the cell. So outside the cell, histamine is broken down by DAO, diamine oxidase. Inside the cell, it's broken down by HNMT. And I always forget the full name on that. But inside the cell, histamine needs HNMT. It's very hard to boost that. Science is very unclear. If I knew how to boost it, I would make a product for y'all. I'd make a product for me. I take Holoimmune and I take HistoHarmony each day because I have a mild histamine intolerance. It's not major, but it's mild, and I'm not very good with my stress mitigation, things like that. So they work in combination. Kathleen, could this be used in pregnancy? It's not been tested for pregnancy, and I would say you would have to consult with a doctor who is guiding your pregnancy if it would be allowed. What symptoms could you experience if you took too much? If you're on sprinkles, how do you know you should decrease or increase your dose? So it's a very much an intuitive process with a lot of courage. So symptoms that you got too much too fast are your traditional upset of whatever you have. So you have your own genetics, you have your own microbiome, you have your own immune pathways already. So maybe you get flushing of the cheeks, maybe you get sneezing, maybe you get brain fog, headaches, maybe you get diarrhea. I don't know. Whatever your symptomology lends itself when it goes away from what you want, like away from wholeness, if that's exacerbated by anything, curcumin, Holoimmune, whatever, then you want to back off that dosage and you want to try to ramp up right below that. It's almost like feathering. Most people have never really like driven a clutch anymore, so that's a bad analogy. But you're trying to find the line right before an overreaction, but enough that causes that hormesis, that change, that positive change, just like working out. Like if you went to the gym and you never lifted weights, or you only lift weights like once a week, and you lifted for 5 hours straight, like there was like a trainer in there and they would not let you leave that gym until you literally were dropping the weight and you were like thinking you were going to die. Tomorrow, you might be so sore that you might not be able to stand up, or you might not be able to curl your arms because you overworked yourself. You went too far. We don't want that with Holoimmune or any supplement for that matter. We want right below that where you would feel it a little bit, like you made progress, but it wasn't completely upsetting with your life. So that's how you would know decreasing or increasing your dose. If you go outside your zone of tolerance where it's like, I cannot handle this, then you want to back off that. But if you're doing it, generally about 3 days is where we say go up in dosage. If you're extraordinarily sensitive, it might be every 5 days. Sarah says, love Holoimmune to keep me healthy whenever around me is sick. Sometimes I'll take 2 twice a day or more. Yeah, that's awesome, Sarah. Thank you for chiming in. Mary asks, can it reverse anti-thyroid antibodies in Hashimoto's? Need to do mold detox first, start with Holoimmune, or do during detox? Okay, so a lot of layers there, Mary. So can it reverse anti-thyroid Hashimoto's antibodies? It's not been studied for that, so I can't tell you that can happen. I wouldn't be shocked if, as part of a really solid thyroid protocol, that it would help, but I have no data that suggests that it can do that. If you are going through a mold detox, should you take Holoimmune? I kind of covered that earlier. I do think you should. There is a sort of, I think it's a myth out there right now that you have to like put your whole life on hold to do a mold detox. And I would say mold has been around us forever. It's been here before humans. It'll be here after humans. It's been in and around our homes for the longest time, well before anybody knew about mold toxicity and before the building codes were updated. And I know yada, 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 a lot of things have changed in our environment. What I would say is that I no longer, after 16 years of doing this, I no longer am somebody who thinks you need to focus on one treatment path at a time. I think that becomes extraordinarily inefficient in making progress in human health, as well as it actually causes sometimes neuroses and other side effects. So you can get neurotic about food, about mold, about GMOs, whatever it might be. When the reality is like I have the windows open right now and there's mold blowing through the windows. Like if the window's open, there's going to be mold coming in. If you have house plants, which I do, there will always be mold. I've gone very deep on this, and that's just the truth. And so the goal is creating a sense of safety in your body, and Holoimmune can help you with that safety. It can help you with that less of that overreaction. And I agree, if you have markers that are high for mold, you need to take the binders that you need to take to get rid of that mold. And so I see Holoimmune and mold detox as like best friends. Like you definitely, I think it's a really wise thing to be doing those on a regular basis. How does it help with neuro and cognitive symptoms, from Sue? Sue, this is a wonderful question that hopefully Healthy Gut will grow big enough to begin clinical trials and help answer the question. The best thing I have for you is theories at the moment. And so basically, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the vagal nerve is actually like a lot of nerves, but it's running from your gut to your brain. And there's a ton of research essentially showing that that connection from the gut to the brain, that's the direction from the gut to the brain. Now, the vagal nerve also goes from the brain to the gut. But that highway is transporting a ton of signaling molecules. Some of those signaling molecules are inflammatory and some are anti-inflammatory. Some cytokines are inflammatory, some cytokines are anti-inflammatory. Some types of macrophages are inflammatory, some are anti-inflammatory. Some types of Treg cells can be inflammatory, some are, T cells. Treg cells are anti-inflammatory usually, but some types of T cells can be inflammatory. So there's all this cellular data and signaling molecules and hormones that are going from the gut immune system. Remember, the gut is the training ground for the immune system. It is where 80% of the activity of the immune system is happening. Whatever's happening there, whether it be positive or negative, is going to go to the brain through the vagal nerve. And so let's say you have microbiome dysbiosis. I forgot to come back to that, so this is wonderful. If you have microbiome dysbiosis, what we do know is you're going to have elevated inflammatory cytokines. You're going to have the reason why there's a lot of reasons why the microbiome is extraordinarily important and why I think you should think of it as another organ. It makes a ton of compounds, but one of the things it does is it is sort of the representation to your immune system about the outside world. So I don't know where you live, Susan, but just imagine yourself in a safe place. Maybe that's your house. You feel safe in your house. Think of that as like a healthy microbiome. You're safe here, you know where things are, everything's working really well. And then imagine yourself the last time you felt unsafe. Maybe it was like in a back alley or a big city. Maybe it was in an airport or something, but you didn't really know your surroundings. You didn't really feel safe. That's like a microbiome that's in dysbiosis. That sort of signals that are going to come from a unsafe, potentially dangerous microbiome are going to go into the body, and they're going to change the way your cells interact with the rest of the body. And so likely what is happening is that the gut immune system is either correct in its analysis that there is bad things happening in your gut, there's microbiome dysbiosis or something, and the Holoimmune is helping to regulate that down, or you've had gut issues and you've had immune disruption such that now, even after you've gotten out of the mold, you've gotten out of the whatever it is you killed, those signals are still happening. And that's where the immune IQ, the immune retraining happens. There's nothing in the world that I'm aware of other than these products, beta glucans and paraprobiotics, that actually go in there and they interact with your immune system to say, hey, it's safe again. Could you please stop sending so many inflammatory cytokines up to the brain? And so I think that's what's happening, and I think that's what we're going to find out in the next 5 to 10 years, but we don't know at the moment. Mary asks, does it need to be taken long-term and forever? Will it help with difficulties with high glycemic foods, rice, potatoes, etc.? Will it help to balance blood sugar? It's not been studied, Mary, to balance blood sugar. I don't have any anecdotal data on that either. So I would say if you have a glucose meter, or if you have a CGM and you're doing this on the regular and you start taking holoimmune, I would love to hear back if it helped. I don't know if it would, frankly. I do think that it will help with how your body handles rice, potatoes, corn, anything that is a common food sensitivity, dairy, um, potentially even gluten. It's going to help the body handle these foods in a more tolerable way. Like in general, there's nothing there's nothing like essentially bad about corn or rice or potatoes. Like there's like, if you were to line up all the foods from like the worst food in the world, and I don't even know if you can call it a food, but we'll call it a food for the premise here, like Crisco. I don't know if that's the worst food, but that's like the thing that's coming to mind. It's like Crisco might be the worst, most fake plastic thing ever invented in humans on one end, and then maybe there's some like cool berry or something that's like the best, or maybe it's like liver, organ meat or something like that is like the most nutritious, the most anti-inflammatory, and at the other end we have the most inflammatory and the least nutritious. That's how I see the food. I don't see bad and good foods. I see them on the spectrum of how inflammatory could they be and how nutritious could they be. And so a lot of foods that people react to are kind of in the middle to also pretty inert. Corn, I mean, even dairy is higher up the inflammatory pathway than most things. I would put gluten ahead of that. Um, but it's really not that bad compared to other things that you could be eating that are like super fake and super inflammatory. And so whole immune does really help people who are struggling with their foods, and they're struggling to eat more foods, because you're blocking, like let's say you make excessive IgEs to everything you eat, and you've kind of whittled your foods down. You're like low histamine, low FODMAP, whatever. That's going to create microbiome dysbiosis over time. So I don't want people on that way of eating. I want them eating a diverse range of whole foods. And if you want to have some, if you want to have some gluten every once in a while, like I'm not going to be the one to tell you that you shouldn't enjoy the pleasure of that. But I would say you should be cognizant of the inflammatory issues there. That being said, if we go underneath gluten down to dairy, I would say this is the next thing. And then pretty much every other food someone could throw in the chat here, I would probably rank it less than dairy, meaning it's less inflammatory and potentially more nutritious. That's where whole immune really starts to shine. It really helps to recorrect the IgE pathways when you're eating these foods. And would you have to take it forever? I don't know that you'd have to take it forever, but what I would say is that the studies show, most of the studies are about 12 weeks long, and the markers get better and better every week after the 12 weeks. And then when they come off of the paraprobiotic, they start to degrade, meaning that the benefit, not all 100% of the benefit sticks around, which is totally normal. Like it doesn't matter if you're using a drug or a food or a supplement. Like normally you don't get durable benefit forever from these things, but some of it is sticky. It does stick around for some time. What I would say is that you just have to do sort of a cost benefit analysis, and you have to be really real with your situation. Like if I was over 70, I would take whole immune the rest of my life, because we know that your immune system starts to shut down in a major way over 70. Everything works worse. Vaccines, it doesn't matter if you're pro or against it. I'm just saying objectively, the data suggests your immune system starts to fall off a cliff. And so if I was over 70, I would take it every day for the rest of my life for sure. But if I was 30 and I went through a phase of like trying to get my health back and I didn't need it, and, I'd kind of gone through that phase, I'd probably go off it for a little while and see how I did. Okay. Jenna asks, is it really gluten that can be problematic, or is it the source and the pesticides? Um, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. Um, what I can tell you is that the massive amount of people, like I'm talking all walks of life, every color of skin, every age, every gender. I've heard this from these people for, again, I've been doing this for 16 years. Many people of all walks of life suggest that they do better on the grains in Europe, which have extraordinarily much lower levels of pesticides, than the grains in the United States. The other thing is Europeans eat their grains almost immediately. They have almost no preservatives. So is it the pesticides or is it the preservatives? Who knows? But I would say that the factory farming in America, the extraordinarily high amount of pesticides and glyphosate that are used, and the extraordinarily much more preservatives that are used to give the longest shelf life, because America is about capitalism. We want the longest. These companies are incentivized to have the longest shelf life for anything. Together, all of that combined is probably creating the problem. Like if that's part of the whole part and parcel. And so at the end of the day, I think you can, a lot of people love to argue this stuff. I've gotten so bored by it because I've just gone through those evangelical times in my life, and only to find more and more data. And the more data you consume, kind of the more you realize you don't know, and the more variables you realize are at play. To me, it's like a choice that I make a few times, like maybe like 20 times a year. I might have some wheat or some gluten. And I like to make sure I'm always in a very happy place. I like to make sure I'm always have holozymes and some extra support on board when I do that. I try to protect my body, and that's really okay with me. I don't have celiac disease though, and I don't have an active autoimmune condition. If I had those things, I might do things differently. And so I think that's where holoimmune really comes from. Is once we understand that the world is kind of messed up, like once we understand that there's 80,000 new chemicals that have been poured out from 3M and DuPont and all these chemical companies that are never, the PFAS, they're never going away. We can't get them out of our bodies. They're in our babies immediately as soon as they're born. Like, we can be outraged about that stuff, but it gets you nowhere, and it only makes your body more inflammatory to be outraged all the time. And so I'm really interested in what kinds of compounds, what kinds of supplements, what kinds of ways of living can we choose such that we can be in this environment and not have the consequences. So that's where holoimmune, I think, really excels. It's one of the only things in the world that essentially, whether you're exposing yourself to mold and gluten and GMO everything and Crisco all day long, it's going to, frankly, it could help you tolerate those foods better as well, and that environment better. Because it's sort of helping your body be more intolerant to whatever you're eating, drinking, and breathing. Carlton asks, if half of my bowel movement is sludge, should I take more enzymes? Carlton, it's a wonderful question. I don't know. You should just try it because there's no downside. The downside risk is like you ate like 6 or 10 more enzymes for the next 5 days. Definitely give it 5 to 7 days because I think a lot of people don't test long enough. Most people's body takes like 3 to 5 days to really make a change. So I would double, Carlton, or triple for 5 to 7 days and just see what happens. If you double for 5 days, nothing happens. Try triple, and then go back down, and then okay, it's not enzymes. Maybe I need some Tributyl X to slow things down. Maybe my stomach acid is the problem. I need to check for low stomach acid, and if I fix that, my motility would firm up. So I look at everything as like a possibility, a test, a curiosity, and then just be aware of there's certain nutrients you can't really do that with, like selenium. Selenium is has a very narrow range of a therapeutic window and can become very toxic above that. And so you have to be aware of what things can you be an adult with and test at home, and what things should you not be. Like drugs have very specific ranges. Like if you take too much GLP-1s, we know that your stomach seizes up, right? You don't want that. But below that, whatever that dosage is for you, maybe the GLP-1 is like really helpful for you. So the same thing can be true for for Holozymes or HCl or whatever you're playing with. Laura says, thank you for all this excellent information. Knowing how the supplements work in the body is so fascinating. Thank you. Oh, I love that you love it. That's great. All right. Yeah, any other questions, guys? Throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we're probably going to wrap up here. Let me go back to my slide deck real quick. Yeah, so that's just more of reviews. You can go read these on healthygut.com. Check out the 40% off now sale, the back to school smarter immune sale. There is no sale on Holozymes at the moment, Arnold, but maybe you should wink winks, pay attention to your inbox this weekend. Mary, I've taken butyrate for 3 months and I'm able to handle high glycemic foods better. Oh, you're the one from before. Okay, awesome. That's great, Mary. Yeah, I mean, look, butyrate is a wonderful product. And it could, yeah, I mean, it's going to help boost GLP-1. It's going to help do so many things. So I love hearing that. Hey, Nanette, let me go find your question if you put it in there. Did you put a question in that? Microscopic colitis. Let me go see if there's something I missed. Oh, yep, here it is. Will Holoimmune help with microscopic colitis? What products would you recommend for me? So would it help with microscopic colitis? It's going to be helpful in like a full protocol, not by itself. It's not a treatment for colitis or microscopic colitis. But it is going to, I mean, part of what colitis is unchecked inflammation in the colon, right? We have like essentially pathways that are not being shut down. The inflammation pathways are not being properly turned off. Now, sometimes they could be properly turned on. So if you haven't already done some advanced stool testing, I would really look into that. You could do things like doctor's data, peristology ×3. Most stool tests, you need to do 2 at the same time. So get another one. There's GI effects, GI matrix, there's GI, so many things. But you don't want to, I'm not looking for you to test your microbiome. I would like, with colitis and Crohn's, I think it's a really good idea to make sure there's no pathogens in there. And oftentimes there is. So if you can just, make sure that that's not in there, I think that's a really wonderful use of time and money. Try to find a practitioner who sees a lot of colitis. That's also really helpful because, frankly, there's those cases are sometimes a little harder to deal with because the inflammation is running so rampant and you need to push dosages of certain products much higher. Oftentimes you may need to look into pharmaceutical support as well. Things like LDN, if you haven't looked into that, I would check that out. All the same stuff though still applies to you. Like you're going to need the right stomach acid to break down your food to prevent more pathogens from coming in. So if you haven't done an HCl challenge, I would do that. If you haven't supported your body with digestive enzymes, with like Holozymes, I would do that. If you are not on a butyrate supplement or a butyrate prebiotic, I would get on one of those as long as you can tolerate it. So I would have you on Tributyrin X, Holozymes, check your HCl. Holoimmune would be helpful to hopefully turn down those pathways. But beyond that in and of itself is like, we're just trying to get you functioning as well as you can right now and out of pain and getting the most nutrients out of your food. But there's a deeper, something in there deeper that's continuing the cascade of inflammation. Could be a pathogen, could be mold, could be your nervous system. So if you haven't worked on your nervous system, go check out Dr. Amy's stuff, The Biology of Trauma. Looks like you already did a GI map. Okay, great. Do some labs on mold. I'm not getting paid for this, but I think Function Health has a great deal in labs right now. So you might want, if you haven't run like a really comprehensive blood panel, check for iron, check for other inflammatory pathways that could be out of balance. Those are always really helpful. But if you've already looked into that, I would check out, there's some really cool books on LDN. The nervous system work is pretty much always like if someone has Crohn's or colitis, like I don't know that you can get those problems without some level of nervous system dysregulation. And I had plenty, right? I was never diagnosed with those specifically, but maybe at my height of my issues, maybe I would have. I just didn't have a colonoscopy at that time. But I had plenty of nervous system dysregulation that was contributing to my gut issues. And so they work hand in hand. Okay, you already got Amy's book. That's wonderful. So you're on the path in that. The biggest thing then is, yeah, I would have you on like the Healthy Gut Reset protocol. So you can write in. The Healthy Gut Reset protocol is histoharmony in case you have histamine issues. It's holoimmune. It's Tributyrin X. It's holozymes. And then HCl if you need it. So that right there to me is like the base protocol for like my gut is messed up and I don't know exactly what's going on, but I need to get the most nutrition out of whatever foods I'm eating, whether you're all organic or you're trying or whatever it is. You're trying to get the most nutrients. You're trying to limit the amount of microbiome dysbiosis and the microbiome damage that happens. And you're trying to retrain your immune system. And then you can layer on top of that, like hormones. Like, I don't know if you've done, I don't know if you're perimenopause or menopause, but estrogen could be a massive contributor if you're low estrogen to what's going on there. As Susan put there, vagal nerve stim, big deal. So there are lots of different things there for you to dive into, Nadette. So hopefully that gets you started. Sarah's never seen a GI map without pathogens. Yeah, that's why when we had our consulting practice, we mandated everybody bought 2 stool tests from 2 different companies, and they took the samples from the same day, the same poo, because stool testing is like it's not the most exact science, that's for sure. Okay, getting ready to wrap up. If you have one more question, looks like Mary. Okay, Mary and Arnold, and then we'll probably wrap up here. So how long does it stay in the body? Wondering if I could take it every other day. I assume that's about holoimmune. Again, all the studies were taking it daily. I don't really know what it would do if you took it every other day. I don't think it would hurt you. I just don't know if you get the maximum benefits. And then it doesn't stay in the body. You literally like poop it out. It gets eaten by your microbiome, and like you literally get rid of this stuff. It's inactivated probiotics. So they're not colonizing. They're not doing anything else on that front. And then do you know if holoimmune can be taken with Antrantil? Yes, 100%. Holoimmune does not. You can take holoimmune with probiotic. I take a probiotic every day. I take holoimmune every day. I take a lot of products. Holoimmune does not. It doesn't impact. It doesn't change any other product. So whatever product you're thinking about, it can work with it. Working with Antrantil is no big deal. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, we got the Smart Immune sale going on right now, up to 40% off. Check that out. If you have other questions I didn't get to, hit us up at support@Healthy Gut. We have a wonderful team behind me. Most of them have some sort of credentials after the name. They're highly trained, and we're here to help. Thanks for hanging out.